All right, we're live.
Yay! This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Gerald.
I'm an ace.
I'm Rami.
This week we have been reading The Trial for Murder by Charles Dickens. If you haven't had a chance to read it yet, please pause the podcast, read the story, and then return. We're back in 19th century London, where an unnamed narrator believes he sees a ghost, who he later discovers is a murdered man. Ooh. Our narrator is summoned to sit on the jury at the trial of the accused murderer. During the trial, he continues to see the ghost, who appears to be keeping a watchful eye on proceedings. No spoilers here.
Ooh. All right.
Ooh.
Let's start top level. Rami, what did you think of the story?
So I can't tell you what I think until I understand it. So we'll wait till that happens.
Okay. But what did you understand though?
I understood that there was a juror. I mean, basically what Gerald summarized, but there was some parts. Well, I mean, we'll get into the details of it, but yeah, there were some things that kind of need some gaps that need to be filled, I think.
Okay.
Fair
Gerald,
enough.
what did you think of it?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. It was quite. I didn't like the opening. The opening was long-winded and over-explanatory, I think, and I, it's like wading through treacle a bit. But once we're into the story, once he'd seen the ghost, the figures, then yeah, it was okay. It was okay.
I was thinking show notes. Gerald on Dickens, wading through treacle. But I kind of know what you mean. We're like the beginning, it's just like, I'm a bachelor, I work in a bank branch, but it's not that easy. And it's just like me and my valet and his wife. And then the explanation of like, but the store, like, was that even necessary? Like, the dressing room only has one entrance. Well, I guess, sure, technically it has another entrance. But look, we nailed that entrance when we put in the bathroom. It's like, well, okay. Like, just, I agree. The beginning, I had this amount of like, if the nailed door doesn't come into play and doesn't blast open, and it didn't.
What's that point? No,
It did
didn't.
not.
I suppose it the idea is that there's no other entrance for this vision, this apparition to appear from. So it's spooky disappeared.
The only thing I liked about the beginning was the very, very, very beginning where he's sitting there like, how come we can talk about sea monsters without a problem, but we can't talk about like ghosts and like prophetic visions? And I'm like, yeah, why?
It's a good point. It's a good, and it's a bit like illness, isn't it? Because if everyone can see if you've got a broken leg or a broken arm, they say, "Oh, poor you," and you talk about it. But with mental illness and depression and things like that, people tend not to think about it and don't understand it. But you can see a broken leg, so we all understand that. So it's a bit like that, I think.
I think that's true because throughout the story, this character, the narrator, he is prefacing every single moment of supernatural phenomenon with, okay, here's all the logical arguments that I'm anticipating from you, hypothetical person reading this. And just so you know, I already thought of that, but it wasn't that. I already thought of that, but it wasn't that. Which is the way that we actually do tend to talk about ghostly visions. Like, and okay, there was no wind. Also, everything was closed, right? Like, that's how you start the story.
That's a good point. Yeah, I quite like that. Yes, he was doing that because it's trick of the light, and was it this, and was it somebody playing a game, and all this sort of. But yeah, he had that covered in advance, didn't he? That's quite like
and that is how we tell these stories, because we know we sound crazy. So this whole story, he's like hedging the entire way through. He's just like, and okay, yeah, I thought I saw this ghost going up to every single juror while they were sleeping, but then the next day everyone said that they dreamed about him. Okay, what about that? Like, he's just like, which, I mean, I'm using the sort of like modern 21st century, young urban voice for it, right? But he's doing the exact same thing in the 19th century London banker voice.
Yeah. and in that respect, I think, I mean, it wasn't very scary, really. I at no point was I looking out the window to see if there was an apparition walking down the road. And somebody referred to it as horror, and no, it wasn't really horror. It was just a spooky tale.
Was it even spooky? That's my biggest complaint is what am I supposed to what is he trying to get me to feel from this? Because I, I what's the point of view? What's the argument here? What is it a feeling I'm supposed to get? Is it a lesson I'm supposed to learn? That's the only thing is at the end of it I had that feeling of like, okay.
I think it's probably it's what it's trying to do is to say these things happen, these spooky things happen, because it makes a reference to two other things. Because he said, yeah, I know, I'm already aware of these other things that have gone on. There's a Berlin bookmaker, Berlin bookseller, and the wife of the astronomer or royal or something. So I looked those up, and yes, they were people who saw things, saw strange things, and so he in his stories, and he was quite a fan of Charles Dickens. Apparently, he was quite a fan of the ghostly goings on. So yeah, he's. So I think that's what he's saying. Look, here's a story about somebody that sees these things, and there's a reason for it, because at the end, the accused man had a different vision, but the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So Rami, what don't you understand?
Yeah. So thank you, Gerald.
Okay.
You had mentioned the first paragraph, the opening paragraph, and I'm glad you did, because I was going to ask for someone to interpret it for me.
it's I've read that first couple of paragraphs like 3 or 4 times. I just think, I don't know. Yeah, it's like a prelude. It's sort of saying, these things can happen, that you can see stuff that isn't really there. And then he quotes these other 2 cases that he's aware of. So what he's saying is that what the narrator's saying is, it's, yeah, you might think I'm a bit crazy, but these other people see these things as well. But he does it in a very long-winded way.
And then, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Please explain the end to me as well.
Well, the end is, yeah. So what happens is that the accused man also saw an apparition, but he saw a different one. So he says, I knew I was going to be convicted because I saw this, the narrator guy, and he put in my sleep, and he put a noose around my neck. So I don't know. It's sort of hard to explain ghosts and things.
So the accused person saw a ghost of the narrator, but
Yes.
does that mean that the narrator, is this like a sixth sense thing where the narrator was actually dead the whole time or something?
Okay, so probably not, but I had that same thought. So when I first read it, I just figured it was just like whatever, more supernatural phenomenon, some kind of psychic vision where he saw this thing coming. But then as I was just sort of going about my day, doing the things I need to do, I had this sort of like, wait a minute moment. Like my brain, I guess, was still working on the story. It was like, could this mean that the guy, the foreman, was also dead? Because he kept counting 13 jurors on the stand. And he doesn't explicitly say that the 13th one he keeps saying is the murdered man, right? He keeps saying, when I would count in detail, there was 12. But when I would count in gross, there was 13. And I was just like, that's interesting. So, like, could it be this funny? Like, no, I don't think so, because he talks to too many other characters who respond to him. He talks to Harker, the policeman. The verdict but the only reason I'm like, he could be dead because he's the only other person who sees the ghost. Well, I guess the valet sort of sees the ghost too. But again, he's interacting with the valet. So no, he has to be alive. But there was a part of me that was like, is this the narrator was dead too?
You're in Lincoln in the Bardo mode. That's what it is. Everyone who sees ghosts must be a ghost.
I mean, he's the only one who does. He keeps counting 13 jurors.
Yeah.
But
That's a bit strange. Yeah.
yeah, but the other parts of the story don't support that. How is he like chumming it up with Harker?
Yeah.
You know.
And there's no other clues elsewhere, is there? So I don't think so. But it's good thought though. It's quite interesting.
He should have done that. That would have actually maybe made this horror. If you then go back, find all the clues, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense, and
I
oh,
wonder,
he's dead.
I'm gonna look up real quick if that's like a popular theory about this story, or if this is just. I mean, I'm sure other people have thought of it, but
Don't know. Very
Dickens
interesting.
theories.
So Rami, is that what you didn't understand? The
Yeah, basically
ending
the
was, yeah.
beginning and the end, which I think are two pretty important parts of a story.
Yeah, I think it's like it's almost like old style short story writing, because when you write short stories, you have to grab the reader straight away, and have this Latin or Greek in media res, so you drop them right in the middle of the action, and they get going straight away. But this is da 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 da. I'm going to tell you a story, and it means da da da. So it's a different type of writing to one that we're used to these days.
What's the phrase called that you said?
In media res, which means in the middle of the action or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Also, as I'm looking for a theory, I found something else, which might be, to us, this story isn't very scary, but also we're spoiled now for all kinds of genre fiction out there. And that apparently in 1865, this was one of the first ghost stories ever to be widely published. So this was at a time when like no one was really reading ghost stories like this. So it might have had a completely different reception than the one that we're having now, where we're just like, yeah, but like no one got stabbed, right? Like we're just like, where's the horror?
Well, we're thinking, who's dead and who isn't dead, and we're looking for complications that aren't there.
And throughout the story too, I had trouble differentiating between what was figurative and literal. So the fact that when he touches people like his servant, they can now also see the apparition or something. It's like the power to see it is transferred, and also with the guard. And then he at first thinks he sees something, but then he just attributes it to the moonlight. I was just confused about that.
Yeah, I think you have to suspend belief. I think you have to just go with it, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. But in the realm of ghost stories and supernatural things, then it sort of does make sense. It does, there are in these sort of supernaturally type films, they have people that touch someone and then take on all of their pain or all of their experience or something like that. So there's it makes no sense in a literal world, but it's you just have to go with the flow.
Yeah, but I feel like if that was a fact, that an ability that was introduced in the story, then it should have been played out to its finality. Like it just kind of happens a few times and then nothing else comes out of it. I don't know.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
So I feel like part of the confusion that Rami was talking about the beginning and the end is also that this was, and we encountered a little bit with the James Joyce story, is a lot of what we consume today has been written in this way, with these very long sentences, with a lot of clauses. I've been reading books translated from Italian, which oddly helps. To be like, oh, okay, because that's how their sentences are. But I feel like that was part of the issue as well. So how did you guys, like, do you feel like that stopped you from getting into the flow, or once it got into the plot, you were able to flow a bit easier?
Yeah, it was that. It was that opening couple of paragraphs, which were at a first read through, the sort of pretty impenetrable, I think, to me anyway. And you have to read each word quite slowly to understand what he's saying and what the purpose of those words are, because some of the words are sort of not in common use these days, so it does cause you to pause a little bit. I don't know what yeah, presentiments, having had some singular presentiments, and you think, what's that mean? So,
or
yeah,
even just like the way he describes the three bumbling idiots, the what is it, the triumvirate? I actually thought it was funny. The dunderheaded triumvirate, having no idea about obstruction, disputed them for that very reason.
He's such a snob, isn't he? Just because he's got a janitor, a butler, and a valet, and his wife. And
Oh, what is snuff?
oh, do you not know what snuff is? Snuff is tobacco that you sniff up your
Chew?
nose. Yeah.
Oh.
Used to verify. Used to have a little, little tin, like 2 inches by 3 or something, and you haven't put the little. I have no idea what. I think it's like baseball players chewing tobacco. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, but this one is snorted.
Yeah, up the nose. This was this was before cocaine.
Yeah. This story is often analyzed alongside The Hanged Man's Bride, The Trial for Murder, and Confession Found in a Prison. Because as you were saying, Gerald, Charles Dickens had a lot of themes of ghosts, and then good versus evil, meanness versus generosity, kind of like in the Scrooge story. And he apparently attended a lot of seances, which you mentioned Lincoln and the Bardo. So did the Lincolns. This seemed to be a thing of that time that was sort of taken over the West, was a deep interest in ghost stories, which I think is why so many ghosts that we have today, haunted places, are all Victorian era ghosts. They're all from that time, because that was a time when there was a bit of a fever with that.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird to read it now, because we read the story and I'm just like, okay. Because I guess ghost stories have become kind of part and parcel of what we consume now.
Yeah, it is, and it seems so matter of fact, there is, because I think these days we don't explicitly say, oh, there was a character, there was this guy who looked like he was made of wax, and I think what we do with horror these days is we don't explain what it is. We just create the sound, the feeling, the temperature going down. We just sort of ramp up the tension in the character, not by showing some strange looking person, but by all the other all the other facets of his senses, and just create that tension and that fear, because there's nothing to fear but fear itself, and fear of the unknown is more powerful than fear of something that you can see and something that you can touch.
Yeah. And I think it's a good point you made, that he didn't really play out any of the other senses. And now we've come to sort of expect this lore. We even expect the electromagnetic readings, right? Like when the ghost hunters got with their little right? That's all this stuff. Or then there's some lore about how salt, they can't cross salt, or you can hit them with iron, pure, we have all this other stuff that we built up on it. And here it's just, I saw it, and it doesn't get further than that.
Yeah.
But for that reason, I don't really know what else to say about it.
No, there's no real subtext. There's no theme of good versus evil or anything like that. It's just something strange that happened, and it's kind of hard to read anything deeper into it other than the surface story that you saw this funny creature, a funny man, and yeah.
And I had a very sort of modern reaction. He was like, the sentence is death. Immediately I was like, whoa, okay. that was heavy, hard. Okay.
Yeah. Don't mess about.
Yeah. Rami, do you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am.
Oh. I think it's going to be a short episode, but I think, I don't know, because it's like Gerald said, there's really no subtext. Most of it is just in the relatability of the narrator saying like, guys, I'm not crazy. Here's all the reasons why I'm not crazy. Why do we also think this is crazy? This is a legitimate thing that happened. That's like the only really relatable part. And then the rest of it, I'm just like, okay. All right, the ghost story. But it's not even like a scary one.
Yeah. There are better ghost stories around.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay, so shall we rate it?
Yes. Let's. Oh, jeez. I don't know.
Okay. Rami, do you want to rate it?
Sure. So I started out kind of ambivalent because, like I said, I didn't know what was actually happening. But I think, given our discussion, I feel like there were certainly things that should have been fleshed out more. So I will give it a 2, even though it's written by Charles Dickens.
Okay.
I don't. 3.5.
I'm the same. 3.5.
Yeah, I've written 4.0 down, and I think I can't quite get that far. It's no.
The Kanechi Prophecy. All the other ones I gave 4 to, I definitely enjoyed a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's quiz time. What are you offering for selection to read next week, Anise?
So I'm submitting what I submitted last week. We once read a Colette Sartor story that I really loved. So we're going to do another one. It's called Once Removed. It's in the Chicago Tribune Printers Row Journal.
Ooh. And Rami?
So I'm submitting a news story, but one that I had mentioned on a previous episode because we had previously read a story called Insomnia by Hannah Rahimi. And she was one of the her story was one of the finalists for an award called the Writers Trust of Canada's RBC Brownwin Wallace Award for Emerging Writers in 2016. So I checked the story that had actually won the award, and it is called Wyatt Thirst by an author named Brendan Bowles.
Ooh, very good. Okay, so we have a quiz, and the quiz, you'll never guess, is about ghosts. So
They're all Victorian.
Yeah, it's modern ghosty type things.
Okay.
So, right, so let's start nice and easy. Anise, who is the friendly ghost? Is it Beetlejuice, Gozer the Gozerian, Moaning Myrtle, or Casper?
Casper.
Casper, yay. Rami, when there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
See, nice and easy to get you warmed up. Okay, then. Now it gets tricky. Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas starred in a 1996 film titled The Ghost and the Darkness, based on the book The Man-Eaters of Sabo, which told the true story of two animals that killed as many as 135 workers on an African railroad in 1898. What kind of animals were the Ghost and the Darkness? Were they boa constrictors, baboons, lions, or alligators? Boa constrictors, baboons, lions, alligators.
I feel like gators are too slow. Boas would be interesting. Is it?
Nope.
No.
They're lions.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Why are you messing around so much?
I don't know. Rami, if a celebrity uses a ghost, what is he or she using? Is it a kind of girdle, drugs, a body double for a nude scene, or a professional writer?
Writer.
A writer is correct. Anais, a particularly annoying kind of ghost is the poltergeist. What does the word poltergeist literally mean? Does it mean angry ghost? A ghost who calls you up at 2 a.m. crying about his girlfriend? Could be. A small ghost or a noisy ghost?
Noisy ghost?
Noisy ghost is correct. Very good. Rami,
Yes.
geography now. In which city might you take a ghost walk and visit haunted sites like St Mary Le Bow, Groveland Court, and the Wood Street Compter? Would it be London, Budapest, Paris, or Chicago?
London.
London is correct.
Wow.
Anise, it's the last one. Which famous dramatic ghost says the following? My hour is almost come when I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. Is it the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Hamlet's father, Great Caesar's ghost, or the Phantom of the Opera?
What was the quote?
My hour is almost come when I to sulphurous and tormenting flames must render up myself.
Hamlet?
Yay, it is Hamlet. And finally, Rami, for the win. I missed one out, didn't I? Wait a minute. Oh, yes. A 1967 Arthur Koestler book, a 1981 album by The Police, an episode of The X-Files from 1993, and a 1993 horror movie starring Karen Allen and Ted Marceau. What title do all these things share? So we got a Arthur Koestler book, album by The Police, episode of The X-Files, horror movie. Is it Ghost in the Machine, All Tomorrow's Ghosts, Ghost in the Bathroom, Black Ghost?
I want this to be the answer, so I'm going to pick it. Ghosts in the Bathroom.
Wrong. It's
Ghost of the Machine.
Ghost in the Machine, which means we do the tiebreak. Hurrah!
Okay.
Okay, so Winston Churchill is alleged to have seen the ghost of Abraham Lincoln, yay, when he was visiting the White House. But in which year? Anise, which year did Winston Churchill see Abe Lincoln?
Trying to think, would it have been before, after, during the war? Let's go with 1938.
Okay, Rami?
1910.
It was, in fact, 1940.
40.
Yay!
All right.
So, Anais won the quiz, and what are we reading next week?
We're reading Once Removed by Colette Sartor in the Chicago Tribune's Printers Row Journal. But before you go, a little over because I didn't even have it open. I was like, what? Here we go. All right. Cut right there. Hi, Gerald, editor. Okay. But before you go, join the jury and give your verdict on this story in the comment section at literaryroadhouse.com. Want to make yourself heard? Haunt us on Twitter at litroadhouse. Want to listen to the opinions of a triumvirate of idiots? No? Good. No idiots on the Literary Roadhouse Book Club, a monthly show that discusses full fiction novels, or so we hope. Guys, none of us are lonely bachelor bankers. We need alms. Send your alms at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the vengeful ghost looming over your bed. Until next time, read a good story.